Forget we're not.
This is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, we are live now. I'm gonna get the link and put it up for people that might get on. Hold on. Anyway, that didn't mean you guys all had to be quiet. I'm just saying.
We're live.
I'm awkward. I don't know what you want from me.
I'm frustrated because I bought this bubble tea lemonade and the straw they gave me was tiny and you can't get the bubbles through it, so I'm having to pour it out into this glass as we go.
I thought the
I got my
That's
Zesty Blue glass. I
I
know.
thought there was like a shortage of the bubble tea stuff.
Apparently because of me. I've got some hair.
Well, New York.
That's
Huh?
why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brian has all of them.
Well, I think we're ready to go, Jess. Do you have your...
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got Eyes and Ears. We've got Story Time. We've got
Tinker.
Ask a Tinker.
Chair of Remorse.
Okay. Chair of Remorse.
Yes. don't
I'll
forget
probably
that.
remember. Probably not. It's fine. The light illumine you and welcome to Tarvalon After Dark. My name is Jess, the Emerald Seat, and I'm here at the Thirsty Tinker, Tarvalon's most disreputable inn, located in scenic North Harbor. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Today is going to be amazing, because we've got an informative Eyes and Ears report. We're going to have a special bedtime story with Nablus, and he's going to do the news. And we are going to do the Chair of Remorse. And we're going to Ask a Tinker, and it's going to be tight as hell. So we're all extremely excited.
What's the
But
most exciting
first-
part, though?
Probably the fact that Matt Hatch, the innkeeper,
Oh!
is here. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to make it a surprise, but you wrecked it. So
You guys are
But-
still saying Tarvalon, huh?
No.
okay, you know what? Look,
No, I just was curious. I wasn't sure if it's like a podcast cultural thing or something.
We like to throw both out there so that people can choose for themselves.
I am 100% inconsistent in the way that I say it. So that's how we do.
Matt Hatch has been on here 2 seconds, and he's already criticizing the podcast. I see
You're
how-
already talking shit, man.
And we haven't even finished Jess's intro. Okay, Jess.
I know! But first, let me introduce my partners in debauchery, Nablus and Rakappa Sadai. My loves, how are you?
Oh,
Good. Hi.
Hi.
Hmm.
It's kind of interrupted already, so you already knew I was here.
I loved Matt's interruption there because I had to retrain myself to say Tarvalon, and I find it difficult. I'm not saying we all should say it one way or another, but yeah,
I'm just leaning into my Midwest bullshit. Like,
I say
we're
Tarvalon.
nasal. That's how we do.
Tarvalon.
Tarvalon.
it looks like Tarvalon to me, but apparently, if you look up the things, it says Tarvalon. But
I say it like a Sean Chan might.
Tarvalon.
I can't. Okay, yeah, I guess.
Tarvalon. Right?
Yeah.
I say it like Jordan said it, but that's just, I guess.
Oh,
But he was only the author, so I don't know why you would even.
I don't know why that matters.
I wonder. It's almost like Matt met him or something.
Once.
Well,
La-ti-da.
more times than the rest of us combined. So, anyways,
Anyway.
so
So, what's up? What's
Yeah.
going on?
let's start with Matt. He's the guest. What Matt? Who are you? Who the hell are you? And
Who the hell are you? Why are
and
you here?
doing here?
what do you do with the Wheel of Time? What are you doing here?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Matt Hatch. I'm the innkeeper of the Dusty Wheel YouTube channel. And we do a live call-in talk show like twice a week, all about the Wheel of Time. And yeah, what else do I do? I started off, though, in more humble beginnings, talking about Wheel of Time theories a long time ago, like in the 90s. That's how long ago.
Woo!
Yeah, that's where my fandom began, was reading The Eye of the World in 1990, building a website in 1998, and here I am today at your podcast.
This is really the pinnacle of your career and life in general, right? I mean,
It's the pinnacle of everyone's life and career to be on our show.
Matt, I know we're going to ask you questions later, but like, where does this moment rank with like birth of your kids, wedding? I mean, is this above those things?
I mean, this moment or here on this podcast?
Both.
Like,
Both.
well, so look, the Dusty Wheel has been a lot of fun. I can't say that from a fandom perspective, this ranks up there as like some of my favorite experiences.
All right, podcast is over. Podcast is over.
But being in front of a camera, being in front of a live camera, not my favorite thing. So I can't rank it up there with like children just yet. At least the birth of children. Now maybe raising of teens, I can kind of rank it around that.
Rank it above that.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I just wanted to hear.
Teenagers are the worst.
I just wanted to hear you say being on Tarvalin After Dark, and see how I said it there. That was for you.
Yeah.
Being on Tarvalin After Dark is. I wanted to hear you say is better than Birth of Kids, Wedding.
We probably should have talked about that, Blake,
That's
before we
kinda what I
started the
was
show.
hoping you would say, but it makes me feel a little bad about our podcast now. So, any case, well, hey, what's going on your channel though? You do 2 episodes a week, right? What's coming up?
Well, some fun stuff coming up. We're going to be at JordanCon next week, and we're going to try to be live streaming from there. At the very least, on that Sunday, the Looney Theories panel, if not other live streams. Taylor and I are planning for that. Taylor's my son, who does production, and he will be there at JordanCon. And then the following week, we're gonna live cover Rafe Judkins' Comic-Con panel. Whatever they drop there, we're gonna be live a couple, 10, 15 minutes before that panel is supposed to start. We'll be live during the panel. We can't rebroadcast it live at the same time. I'm sure Comic-Con would not appreciate that. But we'll be watching that with everyone else, because I doubt he'll have more than 5 or 10 minutes in his section of that. And once he drops and reveals whatever he does, we'll be live for as long as fans want to talk about whatever's happening there. So yeah, Friday, July 23rd, we'll be live covering the Comic-Con Amazon Prime Wheel of Time panel.
Oh, so
Exciting.
Rafe is going to be unveiling the trailer. That one.
Is he going to unveil a trailer? I hope so.
Look, if it's Comic-Con and they're making this much of a production out of it, this probably fits better in the news segment, which we'll talk about. But
sorry,
Yeah.
but yes, that's coming up. We'll talk about it.
There's no doubt that's happening. Anyway,
I can't wait to talk about that. You guys have me riveted. I didn't know he had a section at Comic-Con, but
yeah,
very nice.
yep. So we'll talk about that later. What's going on your channel, Recappa?
What is going on my channel? I just filmed 3 videos, which is insane, but I'm also leaving for JordanCon soon, so had to get those out of the way. But we've got chapters 29 and 30 recaps. I have been getting into wolf costumes, putting on Elias hats, doing ridiculous things. I just did Dane Bornhald and Jeffrey Bornhald and Child Bayar for the first time, and they look so stupid. And that's exactly what I was going for. So yeah,
I was gonna say, as is right and proper.
And then we're gonna do, these are the chapters where we see that statue of Arthur Hawkwing while Egwene and Perrin are hiding in his hand and all that. We're gonna do an Arthur Hawkwing deep dive, which I have filmed. So all those are filmed. They will be posted in the coming weeks. I'm excited.
I want you to know, because you told me that last time, I purposefully delayed my Arthur Hawkwing video because I didn't. I'm going to put it off a while now because I'm
you don't have to. You don't have to.
Out right when you do yours. So
honestly, sometimes I go back and forth on how those things work with the algorithm. Sometimes I think they feed each other. I'm not sure.
They might.
You know?
I didn't.
That's nice of you, but you don't have
I didn't want to make it look like we were like stealing ideas from each other or something.
But I kind of feel like since we have a podcast where we talked about it, we can always point at that and be like, no, see.
So okay, I've got Jess, I'll talk last.
Nothing's happening right now. My husband was in the hospital for most of the week, so I was busy. He's fine. It's all good.
Good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you can't say that and then not let everybody know that it's good. So I'm glad you did.
Yes, he's totally fine.
Okay. Well, we can't wait for more. Are you going to cover anything for JordanCon? Like, what's your plan for that? Are you going to do any content for?
Aside from what we're doing, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't honestly given it a lot of thought. I have been kind of kicking around the idea of like just doing some sort of random bullshit, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
I may try a little vlog of sorts of of my day at JordanCon. I was trying to think of like what to do, like how to.
Oh,
because I'm not bringing like rigs to like record everything. Like I'm not bringing full cameras and all kinds of stuff. So at most, I think I'll be recording on my phone, which iPhones actually have pretty good. I mean, you can record some pretty good quality 4K video on the phone. So, but I'm just thinking maybe give people an idea of what it's like being at JordanCon. I have to do something to justify my media pass, I think. So.
I'm gonna write an article on the Great Blight.
Yeah, are you? That's good.
Yeah, I think it's
good to hear.
I don't know. I'm gonna do some crazy things as Recap, I think, but they'll probably involve grabbing people and interviewing them, pretending we're on a red carpet when we're not, just doing stupid stuff.
I love that so much.
Probably not the kind of content JordanCon is expecting, but yeah.
Well, like take what we give them and they'll like it.
I have a news video that'll come out today, which means that it'll come out yesterday for the people hearing the podcast. So that'll come out today. And then so I'll say this here first now, because like I don't know if I'm yet going to be able to figure out how to do this. But so I watch a lot of YouTube, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen on YouTube like the size comparison videos where they'll be like the biggest starships in Star Wars, and then they get bigger and bigger, and they show you like actual like size comparisons. So I was like, okay, I'm totally doing that for the Wheel of Time. Like just all of the objects, like think about like a man, a yeoman, a Trolloc, Dragon Mount, right? Like you can show all of these things, the White Tower, and give a size comparison for people to like have a grasp on how big these things are.
Yeah,
I'm working on that. It came to me and it's like, okay, this is fun. Whether it works or not, or I can actually have the expertise to pull it off, which is usually not the case, but I'm going to try it.
I think that's a
You
cool
want to
idea.
know what? If you say it with enough authority,
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's how I've approached YouTube the whole time. I'm not particularly good at anything, so
That's how I approach pretty much all of my life. So.
Yeah.
I think in these books, when they give us numbers, they say it's this tall or it's this many people or it's this far. It's very hard to actually envision what that is in terms of your world. So yeah, I like that idea.
It'll have some.
Well, and it says in like you can find online and shit like that, like, a pace is X amount of whatever and a hand is whatever. And so like there have been times when I have actually gone through and I have done the math and I've been, holy shit, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, like for instance, Dragon Mount is supposedly taller than Mount Everest.
Oh, that's weird.
Hypothetically speaking. So like it's about that size. So putting that in perspective, having that just standing on its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being miles tall.
Mm.
Next to no other mountains. It's kind of interesting.
Ah.
And it would dwarf. Like I always kind of pictured, like if you ever see the pictures of like Tar Valon next to Dragon Mount, like it kind of makes it look like, yeah, the White Tower is super tall. The White Tower is like 800 feet tall. I'm thinking,
that's nothing.
Like 600 or 700 feet tall. So it's like nothing compared to a mountain that's right. Anyways, yeah, that I'm boring everybody now, but that's
I think it's interesting, but I'm a dork, so
needless is comparing sizes.
I had to hold back on what kind of size comparison videos I watch, but yeah. I didn't know what we were talking about for a second.
I didn't know where Needless was going.
I was really like, okay.
What's never mind. Jess, do we have any new patrons?
Oh God. Let me look.
The preparation, Matt, I hope you're picking this up for your own channel.
Yeah.
You could learn something from the way we prepare.
I don't
Exactly
I don't think
how the
Matt's
Age of Legends
impressed.
episode is going to go. That's exactly how.
Oh shit. Okay, let's see.
While she's looking that up, so I have to tell this story. So I got a sponsor request. So like I got an email from this company. I'm probably not going to put this in the thing because I don't want to tell the story live, but I'll cut this out while we're waiting. So they're like, yeah, we'd love for you to be a sponsor for this cereal, and I'm like, that doesn't seem to correspond too much with my channel, but nevertheless, it's okay. Like I can pitch, but I won't pitch anything I haven't tried or liked. So they're like, oh, of course we'll send you stuff out, and I'm thinking they're going to send me like 1 or 2 boxes of this stuff. They sent me a cardboard box with like 30 of these in them. I'm like, I have enough cereal now for a year, so I hope I like it, right? Because it's like this special cereal that's like low net carbs. Like if you're doing keto or something, you would be. It's actually pretty good. This tastes like they're like Fruit Loops that are healthy.
Nice.
They're Magic Spoon's a legit sponsor. They sponsor like every podcast I listen to.
Yeah,
Seriously.
they are.
I've never heard of it, but I'm intrigued.
They just.
All right, I've got the
I believe in
patrons
Magic
whenever we're
Spoons.
ready.
Okay, we're ready to go. Okay, I'll start over again. Hey Jess, do we
Okay.
have any new patrons?
We do. Let us give a warm Thirsty Tinker welcome to Anna and Danny.
Hannah and Danny.
Yeah.
Anna, not Hannah. Anna.
Anna,
Anna.
Danny.
Anna.
Welcome.
I love-
Congratulations on being the best.
I love you guys.
And start thinking of baby names because Nameless is going to have your babies now.
There
Yep.
you go.
Yep, that's when that science is figured out. I will have your babies.
Welcome, patrons. Thank you, patrons. We truly love
We
you.
love you
We do love
so
you.
much.
For those of you who are not patrons, just to reiterate this, we do not love you. In
No
fact,
love.
quite the opposite.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Matt was
Don't
telling
lie.
us beforehand that. Wait a minute, Matt's not a patron. Matt, we don't like you either. Okay, thanks for
I mean,
being.
you're okay.
You're
You're
okay.
fine.
I guess you're okay.
He's an honorary patron today.
Honorary patron.
He's
Well,
supporting us.
we got a good show, I think. This one
Yeah.
is actually good. Usually our shows suck.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
usually
Good.
bullshit, but
Yeah, this one's good.
This is
this one's
be
going
a
to probably be pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
So why don't we just go ahead and dive right into the Eyes and Ears report?
Let's do it.
Eyes and ears, eyes and ears.
Sorry, I had to take off the coat. It's really hot down here. I was done gloating now.
I've
Okay.
got this open. All right. Here.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to Eyes and Ears, the greatest news network in all of Randland. You're welcome. Here's Rakappa Sadai with a special report on the White Cloaks.
Thank you, Jess. This is indeed a special report on the White Cloaks. We just keep hearing about them, and it never fucking stops. In Andor, wolves injured and killed several White Cloaks in a steading. While the White Cloaks were pissed, the rest of Andor rejoiced. I freaking love those wolves, one Andoran told reporters. Normally I'd say, don't tear out people's throats, bad wolves, that's not cool. But when it's a White Cloak, to be honest, it is sort of cool. After the attack, White Cloaks arrested Perrin Barra and Egwene Alvear, two young Emmons Fielders who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But they were also dark friends, said Child Bayar, a White Cloak and a pathetic loser. If they weren't dark friends, why did they flinch when I smacked their heads with an axe handle? Anyway, I don't have to explain myself to you. Yeah, I'm a White Cloak. Sources claim that after the incident, Perrin Barra became seriously worried about his axe. Should he throw it away? Should he not? Should he stand around thinking about it for several books? No one knows, but this is a riveting subplot. I can't wait to follow it over the next decade and see how it turns out. Back to you, Jess.
Decades.
Thank you, Rakappa. Historians have confirmed the first of Mayen did not descend from Archer Hawkwing. Everyone already sort of knew this. Berlain Sir Paindrag told reporters, okay, fine, I'm not Hawkwing's descendant. I'm still entitled to whatever I want. History can bite me. Recent polls suggest the Queen's guards, who keep the peace and uphold the law in Andor, are slacking. When asked about it, an Emmons Fielder replied, we have a queen? Seriously? Finally, Matrim Cawthon fell ill after stealing a dagger from Shedar Logoth. After delving Cawthon, Aes Sedai diagnosed him with a serious case of being a dumbass. This has been Eyes and Ears. You're welcome. That was so good, Brian. Well done.
Thanks.
Well done.
I always like those. Those are fun.
These are my favorite. You guys should put these out every day. Get to
Every day.
Get to it. Write it. And
yeah.
Deliver it to fans. They deserve it.
Keep it going. Well, it's all Brian, so hey.
That's up to him.
If I could write them every day, I would. But
Hey, Brian, I just
they're
corrected
fun.
spelling. You misspelled Aes Sedai in Ask a Tinker, so I just corrected.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Shameful.
It was definitely wasn't a
Shameful.
typo. You
Shameful.
probably just didn't know how to spell it.
Ugh, I'm glad you fixed it before I got there, because I would have just slapped myself in the middle of reading it.
All right, what's up next?
Ask a Tinker.
Ask a Tinker? All right.
Sweet.
Sweet. Ask a
Ask a
Tinker.
Tinker.
Hi, I'm Tony the Tinker. This segment is Ask a Tinker, where you can ask a tinker questions. I'm looking forward to it. Our first question comes from Aradia, who I happen to know is a renowned scholar of the Brown Aja. Look at me, getting letters from a famous Aes Sedai. No big deal, except actually, it's a huge fucking deal. Aradia writes, I'm lost in my current reread of Wheel of Time. It's been so long since I picked it up that I'm wondering if I should go back to the beginning or just forge ahead. A totally facetious question that I just came up with randomly and don't need / want an answer to, because I know the answer is clearly to just keep going. Otherwise, I'd never finish a reread. LOL. That means she laughed out loud. I love this age. Aradia, I'm going to answer this whether you want it or not. For once, you're super wrong. If you don't go back to the beginning, this reread doesn't count. You'll pick up in the middle, read to the end, and wonder if you took in the whole experience without those early details. It will haunt you. Then you'll have to start all over again, which, let's be honest, you're gonna do anyway. But yeah, you 100% have to start over. Sorry about it. Actually, no, I'm not even sorry. Our next question comes from James from Wheel Up Time, who writes, Hi, Tony. My question for you today is quite simple. If I were to become a tinker, would I have to give up BDSM? This could be a deal breaker for me and the way of the leaf. Thank you for taking the time to read this question and to answer it and to read this last bit, even though it's pointless. Haha, that's funny, because I read the last bit anyway. James got me. What a trickster. Thanks for the question, James. A few people have asked about this, and I'm happy to clarify. If it's consensual, you're good. BDSM isn't related to the way. We're chill about it. Our final message comes from Brandy, who writes, I just finished episode 11, where you are talking about the Tinkers, the way of the leaf, and if they eat meat or not. When Rand goes through the way back to Rangrial, the guys rescuing the taken... Sorry, I'm going to read that again. When Rand goes through the way back to Rangrial, the guys rescuing the taken girls, they have spears because they can be used for hunting.
The way she wrote it.
Yeah. When Rand goes through the way back to Rangrial... All right, let me just go off of that. let me just continue. Thanks for writing in, Brandy. I also listened to that episode. We Tinkers love Tar Valon I'm just going to read this paragraph, man. Sorry, I'm getting through this. Thanks for writing in, Brandy. I also listened to that episode. We Tinkers love Tar Valon After Dark. And I realized people are confused about this. Some Wheel of Time fans insist that Tinkers hunt because how else could we survive? Others say Tinkers would never do violence to animals. Allow me to set the record straight once and for all. Oh no, but we're out of time. What a bummer. This has been Ask a Tinker. I enjoyed it very much. If you have questions you'd like to ask a tinker, send them to tarvalonafterdark@gmail.com and maybe I'll answer them on Ask a Tinker, which was this segment, which I enjoyed very much. Goodbye. I love you. Sorry, I got a little tripped up there.
That segment is
It's all good.
I hope that's not a pain to edit there.
Well done.
I always loved your the beginning is always the part that gets me. It's just hi.
I should have proofread some of that. I was like, wait, what? Did
It's
I
true.
write?
Every
As a
single
Patreon,
time he
though.
just about falls out of his chair.
It's so funny.
As a Patreon, do I get to watch this happen in real time?
Yes.
Is that one of the
Yeah,
benefits?
that's
Oh,
that's
Nice.
one of the big benefits.
that is one of the big. That's a great benefit.
Whoa, what are we doing now? We're doing a bedtime story.
Okay.
I didn't read this ahead, so
This one probably isn't as bad as the others. We'll see. Okay. Once upon a time, there lived a boy who. Let's start over.
it's contagious.
Right?
You know.
Once upon a time, there lived a boy who loved music. He would go with his parents to see the Gleeman sing songs, and he would laugh with joy. When it came time for the boy's birthday, his parents bought him a beautiful harp because they knew how much. Wait. Okay, Brian, you did this. This is your fault.
I know.
When it came time for the boy's birthday, his parents bought him a Hold on. Recording.
You wrote this.
We're recording live. Sorry. No, it wasn't that. Okay, let's start over. I was talking to somebody. When it came time for the boy's birthday, his parents bought him a beautiful harp because they knew he loved music so much. The boy was so happy. He could finally play music on his own. He spent day and night playing his harp and practicing. He wrote his own songs and he played them for his parents. He got so good at playing the harp. Then he started playing at the ends. Crowds of people would cram into the ends and listen to his beautiful music. Soon, people were coming from other towns to hear him play. They were giving him their gold coins, and the more he played, the richer he got. When he was able to, he bought a giant palace and moved away from his parents and their farm. He had so much gold. It seemed like his life was perfect. He got to do what he loved, and he got paid a ton of money to do it. What a life. Then, one day as he was playing his harp at his palace, a line of light formed in front of him and spun around and turned into a doorway. Out stepped a man with his own harp. "Hi, I heard you were good at playing the harp," the man said. "I am. I couldn't ever become a farmer. I always knew that playing music is what I was meant to do." I too am a musician," the man said. "My name is Asmodean." Then the man used the one power to slice off the boy's arm so he could never play again. "I can't have you being better than me, now can I?" Asmodean said. Then Asmodean sat in front of the boy and played the harp while the boy bled out through his shoulders. Then Asmodean healed the boy so he would stop bleeding. "I want you to remember forever that you can't ever play again. You should have stayed on your farm," said Asmodean. Then Asmodean left the boy alone without any way to keep making money and do what he loved ever again. The moral of the story is, kids, don't ever leave your parents' farm or think that you can make something of yourself. Living on a farm and shearing sheep is all there is in life. The end.
Love it.
I really thought you were going. I expected you to go like a devil went down to Georgia kind of direction with it, but you got me.
I wasn't sure where you were going with. I wasn't sure if that boy was gonna become Asmodean and kill all the.
I thought maybe it was Asmodean.
Yeah, I was. I
You
didn't know
were-
exactly.
You were riveted to the story.
I was
Exactly.
All that was important, right? And if you, again, I think it plays into this theme because this came from Brian. It's like this whole idea that like, if they're using the Forsaken as like to scare kids in the Two Rivers, like what are the stories they're telling?
Yeah.
Like Asmodean's gonna come get you, right?
The idea of making Asmodean scary is funny. It's like, like
That
the
is so
story is
sad.
way more intense than anything he ever did in the books. It's
Well,
like-
supposedly, what did he do? He killed his mom or something like that, or I
Did
don't
he?
remember, something like
Also,
that.
See, things like that, I feel like are kind of brushed over in this series. I'm like, oh, see, that's interesting because this guy doesn't scare me. When I read Asmodean,
He has like the dumbest reason for becoming a Forsaken. It's like, I wanted to be the best at music and play forever. And
It's pretty bad. It's pretty silly.
anyways,
Chair of Remorse?
it's time.
Chair
So
of Remorse.
we got our little intro song that'll play. Do you guys have the script pulled up?
I
Yes.
do.
So Matt, again, just to prep you for this, all we're going to do is ask you a bunch of stupid questions.
Okay.
Your job is you're not acting, you're not trying to play the part. You are literally just answering. We're going to be acting like hard asses because we're interrogating you, and you just be you.
I don't trust you guys.
No, there's
You
nothing.
should not.
You really shouldn't, though.
I mean, that's fair, but
That's legit,
you know.
yeah.
Okay.
And
Ready.
Jess,
Centering
I think it
myself.
starts with you.
indeed. Today on the Chair of Remorse, we have with us one of the most horrific criminals we've caught within the white walls. With us today is Matt Hatch, the innkeeper at the Dusty Wheel. Warder, read off the charges.
Matthew Hatch, by the flame of Tarvalin, you have been charged, under the light, with a form of insider trading. You have used friendships with Brandon Sanderson and Team Jordan to get insanely famous on YouTube. How plead you?
Not guilty.
Silence, you fool! You stand before 2 eyes to die. We will let the chair decide your fate. Prepare yourself. You are going to be asked a series of questions. You will answer truthfully and with whatever comes to mind. Is that understood, child?
Yes.
Let's begin. Remember, boy, these questions will be hard-hitting and will require you to open up your deepest thoughts and feelings. What is your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Coke Zero.
What is the longest car ride you have ever taken?
Total 30 days.
Okay, hold up. 30 days?
We went on a 30-day trip with my family across the country.
Oh my. Okay, wow.
I mean, we stopped places, but from the time we left to when we got back home, 30 days.
Okay. That
Damn.
was not the answer I was expecting, but okay. What is the best state in the United States? Quickly.
California.
Hmm.
It has San Diego. Look.
I have heard it's a tropical paradise.
I'm from California. I can
San Diego.
confirm it is
San Diego.
pretty much the best.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Yes, good answer.
How do you have your eggs cooked?
Hard boiled.
Correct.
In a different turning of the wheel, if you were forced to marry one Wheel of Time character, who would it be and why?
Min. Because Min's awesome.
I want to kill men, so there we go.
You do want to kill Min.
What is the best movie of all time?
Sheesh. I'm supposed to answer this question?
Yes.
The Matrix.
Do you have any pets?
Yes.
I guess that's a valid answer.
Well,
Okay.
Follow-up question. What are the pets and what are their names?
I think we should leave it there. That was pretty great. But yeah.
So there are 3 cats, and their names are Wayne, Clark, and Grayson.
Notice that he said he was a dog person earlier.
That's true.
Sounds like the family overruled.
Yes.
If his
The
cats
family-
are listening to the
loves their
pod, they're gonna be
cats.
so mad.
Okay. When was the last time you dressed up as Lanfear for fun at home?
It's sometime in the future, apparently. I don't know if I can
What
call
kind
it
of car
fun.
do you drive?
Ooh, a Kia Sportage.
Would you rather be able to fly or turn invisible, and why?
Fly, because you can go anywhere you want, anytime.
Okay,
And invisibility is kind of creepy.
that's true.
Which of the following fantasy characters are you the most like? Hotun Fane, Albus Dumbledore, Darth Vader, Yoda, Gandalf, or Constance the Badger from Redwall? And why is that the case?
Albus Dumbledore. And why is that the case? I like having all the knowledge, and then using it to manipulate people for my purposes that are good purposes.
That checks out.
Yeah.
What Aja would you pick if you were an Aes Sedai?
Ooh. Brown, obviously.
That also checks out.
If you were a Trolloc and Taylor was born a Myrddraal, would you want to be linked to him or not? You really have to think about this one. You got to really put yourself in another place to make this.
I mean, is this before or after I was his father?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of steps here. I think.
Well, I mean,
let's
you
just
give
say
birth to a Myrddraal, right? Like, Myrddraal are kids of Trollocs.
So
your
yes,
son, would you want to be?
Yes. I'll answer the yes.
Okay. So if he dies, you died. Cool.
That's
okay. Would you rather be a Myrddraal, Trolloc, Golem, or Grey Man?
I mean, Golem, obviously, because then you can be all those
blood.
things.
I got you. Okay. Cool.
See? He admits out of his own mouth to being a dark friend. By the White Tower and the Flame of Tar Valon, I pronounce you guilty. Take him away, Warder.
Yes, Aes Sedai. All right, there we go. You're
Those
done.
are trick questions.
Yep. You admitted it. Dark friend.
I loved the list of characters you might be, Matt.
I know, there
That's a
were
good
like
list
7.
Shout out to Constance the Badger from Redwall. I didn't expect them to come up on this podcast, but hey, love me
Yeah, I
some
would have
Redwall.
chosen Constance the Badger.
Redwall's a great book.
I'm trying to think back about all my answers. I think they were fine.
They sounded good to me.
The one about where you like knowing everything so you can manipulate people to do what you want. That comes across really well. I think I can edit that to be.
Why do you think the Brown Asha are the Brown Asha? It's not just because they enjoy the information.
Fair enough.
It's fair. I mean, look at Varen.
True. All right, Jess, intro me for the news.
And now, Nablus is going to tell us some news.
Boom. Guys, we it's I think since our last episode, because we took a week off last week for the 4th, we have had some news drop, right? Like we had essentially a teaser trailer, right, with a logo, and
Which looks really cool.
Which looks really cool. It's going to be pretty hard to talk about on a podcast. But then we also got
Paint me a word picture.
paint a word picture. But then we got some other announcements here, a surprise one last week. So I guess let's start, since we've got Matt Hatch here, who did cover the news live, which, by the way, we kind of had said this earlier, but you should definitely follow the Dusty Wheel. If you like watching live reactions, like I've been on the show, I know Brian and Jess have also been on the Dusty Wheel, like we've been guests there. It's one of the most fun places to kind of live react to some of this stuff and get to talk and geek out about the Wheel of Time. So should definitely be a part of that. We get to do that here a little bit. So Matt, I guess I'll report a little bit. I mean, obviously the one 2 weeks ago, which most people have probably seen, we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but was the clip announcing that the Wheel of Time would come out officially in 2021. So what I have noticed from you on Twitter now, we've got the daily countdown now coming up from the Dusty Wheel on Twitter. Explain a little bit about your thinking.
So obviously, right, as soon as they said 2021 is happening, and then I think someone else posted, like, there's only 180 days left or something in the year, and I was like, and saying like, oh yeah, and then every day, and someone mentioned countdown somewhere. So I was like, yeah, somebody's got to throw a countdown up. And I looked for automated ways to do it through Twitter and didn't find one. So I was like, screw it. I'll post how many days left in the year, because we obviously don't know when the release date is yet. And it was funny because I posted this the first time. People were like, oh, this is awesome. And my daughter saw it and she was like, wow, you're really putting the screws to Wheel of Time on Prime. Like, they only have this many days to release it. And I was like, well, they said they were releasing it this year. I don't think I'm putting the pressure on them. And she's like, yeah, but every day you're pointing out that they only have this many days left. So yeah, that was fun. And then I just threw one up that had how many days now till the next news we end up covering. So yeah, now people were started asking for countdowns for everything after that on my Discord channel. It made me laugh, but these are only the countdowns we're doing right now. It's like until until we have a release date, which would be nice.
Well, go ahead, Brian.
I loved seeing it. I loved because I hadn't counted the days left, and I was like, it actually draws attention to the fact that there isn't that much time for it to come out. So it made me smile when I saw it.
Well, I guess let's start with this question, and I know this is going to be a little bit more of an interview, but I'd love to hear your input on it. I don't know that there's necessarily we need to go over that here because everybody's seen it. There are plenty of other videos to kind of go over that in detail. You've got yours. Lauren at Unraveling the Pattern did one. I'll have one that's kind of talking about it. But more importantly to me, what would you say, and this goes out to all of you guys, what would you say to people that were kind of upset that we didn't get more than just a logo and a date? Like they kind of told us something we already knew, right? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, what is your response to people that were upset? Because there were some of them, as weird as it sounds. There were a few.
Go outside, take a walk, get some fresh air, and get right with your life. Because honestly, if you're getting upset because they showed you a logo and not something else, you need to get your priorities in order. Like, yes, this is important to everybody. We're all really, really excited about it. And I know that everybody's really excited for the trailer. And they're really excited to know when the show's going to come out. They'll tell us when they're ready to tell us. And you need to just calm down. Yeah. Honestly, I get so irritated every time they drop something and people are pissing and moaning about it. Like, oh, it's like, do you know any other fandom that gets this kind of shit when their show is going to come out? Nobody gets it. Like, check yourself, man. God, honestly, it really pisses me off.
How do you really feel about it, though, Jess?
I'm fine with it.
Oh, okay.
It's not a big deal.
I was just checking.
Well, in the end, I think this is it felt a bit like they gave us, the fans, kind of these little teasers, right? Those teasers they were dropping on Watt Wednesdays, and they would drop them regularly, and there was kind of interaction from the fan account a lot for a good 8 months. I feel like that was like to keep the fans kind of engaged and as a nice nod to the fans, like, hey, like, we get it, you're waiting, and we want to make sure. Right. Like, in the end of the day, they're going to turn their vision to the new viewers, to the actual viewers, and not like the hard group of fans that's actually watching this information.
Like, they know they've already got us. They do not need to target us in their marketing.
Yeah, this logo was like just kind of to me. It wasn't. If I go back and remember, I don't think it was released on a Watt Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern in time for Watt Wednesday, right? Like, they're dropping this information according to a new schedule, and it's focusing on the upcoming worldwide viewership more so, I think, than fans. So to fans, I would say get ready to take a back seat a little bit to their plans for all of the new fans they're trying to pull in. Like, you're already a fan of the Wheel of Time. You're going to watch the show. Everybody else is who they're after at this point and who they're kind of marketing to. That's how I feel. Like this, and this was kind of like, yeah, cool. It's a logo, and people are gonna be like, "What's the Wheel of Time?" It wasn't for us. I mean, there are parts of the logo itself, I think, that were like little nods to fans, but no one else is like freaking out about wheels not being there and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, no one that doesn't know the Wheel of Time's like, I thought there was gonna be a 7-spoked wheel in their logo. I'm not watching this show I know nothing about.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wheel is right in the title.
I mean, it's so true that this was like probably the first thing that's not for fans that they put out, or at least the first official thing. If that's why it feels so official, I think, is it's not geared towards book fans. It is geared towards a generic audience or whatever demographic they're going for. I will say about the people who get upset, I don't know how this will go over. I do think we have a little bit of responsibility as creators for how we talk about these things, because I think that people have expectations that aren't being fulfilled, and part of it is because we keep saying, have you seen the new trailer? Or have you seen, that's the main thing, is we keep calling these things trailers. And this isn't a trailer, it's a title treatment. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think, that's not excusing, like, why would you be mad? Like you said, Jess, it's ridiculous. You need to check yourself. But I do think people are disappointed because we've been we've been expecting certain things, and it's like normally we wouldn't be getting these releases. They are doing this for the book fans, like we said. This isn't a normal rollout, I would say. And I think they have a challenge because on one hand, they're trying to include us book fans. The downside of that is we are expecting more and more and more. And when they say to us, we're planning to release something in June, we expect a trailer because we've already had all this buildup with these other things they've been kind of parsing out. So I just I kind of refuse to call it a trailer. I say it's a title treatment just because I don't want to contribute to this. Not that we're doing that. I think I'm talking more in general about like on Twitter, the conversation that I've seen is like, have you seen the Wine Spring Inn trailer? And it's like, well, no wonder everyone's getting disappointed because, we're not talking about these things as they are. We should look at them as just positives, just treats that we're getting. That's kind of going back a little bit there, but I feel bad because I feel like I contribute to the hype and I often throw around words like trailer without thinking about it. And I'm trying to be better because I think that's part of why people do get disappointed is because they, based on what they're seeing in our content and our community, they think they're getting a trailer for whatever reason. Does that make sense?
Well, to a degree, I think I think a lot of that comes down to how you're defining a trailer, right? I mean, in some ways, these are teasers. They're not full trailers, but have been some teasers. We've seen some live footage. So
but yes, teasers. Yeah.
So, and I think most of us have called them that. Now, I'll take some credit for part of what you just talked about because there was an initial plan to release a full trailer in June. Now, I will preface this by saying none of us guaranteed that, right?
Right.
All we had said is that there was an initial plan to do that. They did push it back.
Honestly, though, as much as we do as creators to try and manage people's expectations, like people are still going to not manage themselves. So
yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
And I think the biggest, I would say the biggest responsibility that I take on as a creator when I make content about this stuff is to give people perspective. So to talk about like, hey, when people are upset about something, I understand why people get upset about, for instance, a change that might have come out, right? Or something like a trailer, right? Or why has this been delayed or anything like that. I view my role as people's reactions are typically based on limited information, right? Or limited context. So I kind of view my role as a creator when I'm talking about this stuff is to give context. A lot of times that will come across, I get accused in my comments all the time of being an Amazon shill, that I'm just excited about whatever they do.
Are you not?
Right? All I'm really doing is trying to give some perspective or some context to what we've been told, right? So whether that is, hey, is this, what's the timeline for actually how this stuff plays out? Why would they need to make a big change? The funny thing is
fun. That's part of the fun.
It is. And some of the changes that they need to make, I mean, this has come out of their own mouths, is they need to make big changes sometimes to actually keep the story the same. I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but if we're trying to keep the characters the same, most of the story that's written is an internal monologue. You can't, unless you want to make a remake of Dune, right, with the voiceovers, right? Like you can't do that. And so you have to show it. And that means creating scenes that don't exist to show character.
But
right?
There's also a connection here. Like the name The Wheel of Time doesn't say anything to anyone that doesn't know the books. You're like, hey, did you hear about that show, The Wheel of Time? I can't imagine him be like, oh, you mean that fantasy fiction, whatever, it's there. People are like, oh, the logos look a lot like, Game of Thrones logos or whatever, the typeface, or, why aren't they using a wheel? Why this the serpent thing, whatever. You're like, well, they're probably trying to associate the type of genre and create some kind of visual expectation for people that have never heard of The Wheel of Time. And if they just saw it briefly, like the logo itself or the name somewhere, they'd be like, oh, that might be something I'm interested in. I'll take a look. And so I think fans have to kind of go with the fact that they're going to be attempting to create a feel and look of the logos, the marketing materials that they believe from their research will appeal to the kind of people that would be interested in that. and it may change things, or it may, like, they didn't use a 7-spoked wheel. Well, guess what? A 7-spoked wheel doesn't say anything. It doesn't communicate any type of genre. And even if you throw like, but there's the serpent that goes and it's the infinity, whatever. It's like, the idea is they want to associate this thing with the type of marketing effort that they think is going to reach the most people. And I try not to get too upset by the fact that they're going to market these things, and I want people to come view this. So if they believe this is going to work, cool. I'm not.
You know what I have no doubt that they pay people a lot of money for their expertise in this. So if that's what tested, like, and I think another piece of that is that I think that people underestimate the number of folks who who recognize the Ouroboros symbol, the snake biting its own tail, and the relationship that has to the concept of time and infinity and all of that other stuff. So using the snake, I feel like, was a much smarter thing.
Yeah, I agree
completely.
And the animation of it, where it kind of just like coiled and coiled and coiled kind of on into infinity, like, I feel like that imparts more of the kind of feel and the concept than, you know, a wheel would.
I would have loved, the one little nod that I would have loved to have seen, just as they could have dropped this as an Easter egg that only us fans would have caught, would have been if we had seen 7 revolutions of the tail in the logo. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, where it spins like 4 times.
Yeah, I like that. I wasn't counting the revolutions, but I know where you're coming from. Yeah.
But I would have loved something like that, where if I wanted to do a little deep dive, like the sort of when Matt caught the old tongue, right? And the little writing.
That was awesome.
Yeah, like that is I love that kind of little nod to fans, and I have a feeling they will do that.
Yeah.
A decent amount. I guess the last thing I'll say, that to anybody that keeps criticizing that Amazon doesn't know what they're doing, or that this is going to be my favorite criticism. It's my favorite in the sense that I find it the most laughable of any of them, is that when people say, looks like it's going to be another Shannara Chronicles, is probably the funniest criticism I think that they could find, because again, they're spending more money on one episode of this show than they spent on the entire season of Shannara Chronicles. A good example is this. I don't know. It's not a great movie, although it is entertaining. I don't know if you guys have seen The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt that they just released on Amazon. It's they spent $200 million on a movie that got released on Amazon Prime.
They spent $200 million in that movie?
They did. Now, a lot of that, I'm sure, went into the special effects, which I think gradually got worse throughout the movie. But nevertheless, like, it's a high-quality, theater-quality release. Like, it could have been, at least, right?
Sure.
My point on this is, again, I'm not saying it's a great movie. My point on it is at no point will you ever criticize Amazon. Where I'm waiting to make my judgments on this show is the quality of the writing. The one thing that I am not the slightest bit worried about, like not even a little bit, I won't ever lose sleep on it, is will the production be high quality? There's nothing that Amazon releases at all that is not super high quality production wise. Now you can argue the merits of the story, the writing, right? Sometimes, or the direction, that type of thing. And those are the things that we don't know yet. But in terms of production quality, any type of criticism that Amazon would ever release something that looked as cheesy and bad as Shannara Chronicles is laughable to me, because the amount of money they're spending is just stupid.
Well, I mean, speaking about that, they are going, like, the other part of that news is, right, the one that came out just now was Amazon Prime video panel at Comic-Con,
right?
Which Rafe is part of.
Okay, so that's a great transition there to talking about the second piece that just came out this week. So it was announced that Rafe will be basically he's going to be on a panel at Comic-Con. Now, I cannot stress to people who don't necessarily follow Comic-Con or anything like that. Like, that's about the biggest convention I can't think of a bigger one. Right?
No, I think Comic-Con is really sort of I want to say it's probably the best known con out there. Like, even people who don't do cons or no cons, they've heard of Comic-Con. It's huge.
Is it just one? Because isn't there like San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con? Are we talking about just one?
San Diego Comic-Con is like the big one.
Okay. Because I think of New York Comic Con because there are a couple days in New York, like a weekend where everyone's dressed up in costume. So I'm like, okay, it's Comic Con. But people aren't talking about that one. You mean the San Diego one?
Yeah. And I mean, there are lots of different cons. There's Heroes Con out in, I think, North Carolina. Dragon Con is in Atlanta. There are lots of different ones, but San Diego, I don't know if it was the first one, but it's absolutely the biggest. It sells out in like minutes.
Yeah.
Well, and again, for Rafe to have a time on a panel, that indicates exactly what we've been talking about, that now they are shifting from the let's keep the fan base placated a little bit to now let's let everybody know that this is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So, to come back and answer my own question from earlier, like, wow, we got a little, as Brian put it, a title card basically that had 2020 on it, or 2021, I'm sorry, right? Well, we all knew that it was coming out in 2021 already for the most part. Like, we could have gathered that. Yes, that was the first official confirmation, but what's more important about that was that was announcing to everybody that this is coming this year, not just us who've been following it, right?
Yeah.
So back to what I was suggesting earlier, I truly think that for Rafe to be on Comic-Con, I think we're getting a trailer. I would be hard pressed. That's the type of thing they do at Comic-Con.
But do you think a full trailer, do you think like the 2-minute full?
I could see that. I would not be shocked if that's what we got there. The reason I say that again, they use those cons to generate buzz among people. Like, that's what they're for. Typically, when somebody's making an announcement at a con, they're doing a longer release trailer, whether that's a video game, whether that's a movie, whether that's that's what they're doing at those cons. That's why they do them. So,
a lot of things I watch are just from Comic-Con, even though I'm not into Comic-Con specifically. But like Game of Thrones trailers come from Comic-Con that they for the night.
Yeah, I that's the part where I lean against like the full 2-minute trailer thing, and maybe towards if it's going to be a trailer, I could see maybe more of like an actual teaser trailer. You know what I mean? Some of the pieces that we've already seen, more, and with a release date. So what I'm expecting is if we get a trailer, it's going to be like maybe a minute long teaser with a lot of stuff we haven't seen just yet, with a release date. One of those where it's like epic story told, blah blah blah, this, and in other words, like it sets like some stage, but it's more like speaking a little bit than it is necessarily showing like full clips of events happening in the show. Like, and then it's like coming soon on this date or blah blah blah. So that's what I imagine.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do a trailer, I think it's gonna be more of that than we get the full 2-minute seeing a ton of sequences from the show. But I still think we will get, if they do one of these, we'll get like scenes. And
I can see them putting together, like, we got those little like 3 to 5 second clips of Moraine and Land with the voiceover on top. I can see us getting a few of those in there with like a narration over the top, maybe like, the prologue, the Wheel of Time turns, that kind of thing, maybe over the top of it. But I do agree that it'll probably be a shorter version. But maybe not. I am very fastidious about how I manage my expectations for when they drop stuff, but I really would be surprised if it wasn't some kind of trailer.
Well, let me lean into why I think it'll be more than just what we've seen. First of all, let's think about why I would release something if I was Amazon, right? Or if you're Amazon, what would be your goal in purchasing time at Comic-Con, dropping something there, right? Your goal in that would be to get people that are not Wheel of Time fans at that point to be excited about something that's coming. So they're going to lean into stuff that's going to draw people to be interested. That's not going to be little one-liners that we like, right? That's going to be visual spectacle, right? So maybe there's a flash of the White Tower. Maybe there's like some battle scene, like some type of action, right? They're going to highlight those types of things. Maybe quick snippets of channeling, right? We're going to see something that goes, ooh, that's flashy and shiny. I want to see that, right? Then they pull that Wheel of Time logo. You see the Ouroboros, right? Looks like the Game of Thrones. I'm really excited for that, right? That looks like something that's cool. Do I think that we get a full trailer that tells us story, like Matt was saying? No. But I think there are multiple cuts of trailers that you can give. And frankly, guys, what confirmed this for me was what you pointed out, Matt, in your breakdown. That the Ouroboros, the pattern there, that's been existing. They've had that for a long time. In fact, the fact that we got a snippet of it in the Matt video, the dagger, tipped their hand. I think they have pulled clips from larger trailers that they've already put together, and they've been releasing like 2-second clips of things to us, right?
Yeah, I bet that one that came out of Germany, that leaked one, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get like the fully completed version, because Rafe said that wasn't the thing. Although Rafe keeps on saying stuff like, well, we want you to see this when the show... Like, I can't tell if Rafe's being facetious, as in, obviously we're going to see things in trailers. So I'm assuming the first Trolloc we're going to see is in a trailer. And it'll be... And considering the reaction they had when it's like, that's not a Trolloc, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave us a Trolloc, like the real Trolloc in this one, where it's like, this is what we wanted you to wait for. These are the final kind of things. Those other things we gave you were just kind of teasers. You weren't supposed to see that one that was released. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got Moiraine, channeling at Emond's Field, like you said, maybe some battle that's related to the Aes Sedai and Logain, and then like something from the White Tower, maybe even a nod to Fal Dara. I wouldn't be like... I could see all those, but you said like not telling a story.
Yeah, I absolutely think that we will see Logain. I mean, they're going to lean into their really famous international. Like, we'll see Sophie Akhenaten at some point, even though Swan may or may not have a huge role. We're going to see Rosamund highlighted all over the place. We're going to see Alvaro Morte. We're going to see Daniel Henney. I think that we may see some of the Emond's Field 5, but I would guarantee you that more of the screen time in the trailer will probably go to the famous people.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, it's... If I'm somebody in South Korea and I see Daniel Henney, that's a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. So somebody in Europe, really, like, I think people in the United States underestimate how famous Alvaro Morte is. Like, things like that, and the fact that they have not highlighted him in a trailer yet is interesting to me. So either case, I really do think we'll get something visual, whether or not it's a full trailer, whether or not it's a condensed, as I'm talking about, with... that you have to do what makes sense. It doesn't make sense for them to release a little bit of it would defeat the purpose of being at Comic-Con. Right. And we are getting close to the release. Like, it's not coming out next month or anything, but like, as you, Matt, put it, like, we only have 170 something days left, right? Like, it is coming. And so that means the marketing is going to come. And I would imagine that this is probably the beginning of the major marketing campaign from Amazon to a wide audience. Because, again, I literally just went to see, this is how memorable the movie was because I'm forgetting the name, Black Widow.
Is that out?
Yeah, it's out.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It was not, it's a medium tier Marvel movie. Anyways, but of course, Amazon has trailers for things before the movie. That's just what they do. Like, they pay for spots for their TV shows. So I really, that's coming. Like, that's coming now soon. And that's exciting to me because now we can literally show people that we've been talking about the show and the books for years. Not just like, I've got folks that I work with that'll say, like, they know I do a YouTube channel, right? When's that thing coming out that you do that thing on, right? Because they'll all watch it, right? Mm-hmm. And I'll say, yeah, sometime in 2021. But now I'll be able to say, hey, it's coming out on blank date, right?
Yep.
And here's the trailer. What do you think? That I'm excited for. So.
Yeah.
I'm really excited because my best friend Laura finally read the series and she's like finishing up. I'm not sure if she's quite at the last battle yet, but like, I'm super excited to see what she thinks about it.
That's epic. I don't have
And we're totally dressing up as Aes Sedai for DragonCon.
Nice.
Well, guys, that is the news for today. Yay.
Love it.
Yay.
Hey, it's time for a commercial. Who's reading it?
And
I do not know. I've read a lot this episode, so if someone wants to grab it, let me open this
I
up
mean,
here.
Names, you haven't done very much if you want to read it.
I did. I think it's actually you.
Oh, I guess I wrote a character for
okay.
Jest. I don't
Oh,
know why
okay.
Why don't you read it? You wrote it. I don't care. I don't need to hear my voice. Brian.
Sorry, me? Should I read it? Okay.
Yeah, you read and you and Jess read.
Okay.
And Jess, yeah, sorry, I cut you off. To your.
Oh, you're fine.
Should I start?
Well, I'll let her do her.
Oh,
no.
sorry. Oh, yeah, that's right.
And now it's time for a word from our sponsor.
Are your kids obnoxious? Do they constantly want to play stupid games? Have you tried to play Snakes and Foxes with them, but every time you lose, they want to play again? Introducing Snakes and Foxes Deluxe Edition. This new and improved version of Snakes and Foxes takes a minimum of 72 hours to play, and we're pretty sure it's impossible to win. After just one game, your child will be so over Snakes and Foxes, you'll forget this stupid game was ever a problem. Just listen to this testimony from a parent like you.
My son was delighted by the new Snakes and Foxes pieces. He was the wheelbarrow and I was the dog. After playing for 7 days, he had hotels on Snakes Avenue and Dark Place. He still couldn't win. Finally, he said, "Mommy, this game is stupid." Now he's obsessed with Mancala, which is fine. I'll play Mancala the rest of my life if it means we're done with freaking Snakes and Foxes. Burn me.
If your kids are obnoxiously obsessed with Snakes and Foxes, you need Snakes and Foxes Deluxe Edition. Once your children go directly to Sindhall, do not pass Twisted Doorframe, do not collect 3 answers, they'll be over this pointless game. Snakes and Foxes Deluxe Edition. Because no one wants to play your stupid game. It's dumb. Look how dumb it is.
By the way, my mic wasn't set to this thing the entire time. It was set to my computer.
Oh,
Well,
you sound
sounded
okay.
fine.
Oh, you sound
Did it
fine.
sound fine? Okay, because
Yeah.
my audio, my computer's making a whining noise, so hopefully that doesn't.
No, I haven't noticed.
Doesn't-
I'm not
Okay.
hearing it,
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
Okay, good. Anyway, sorry.
Well,
You sound much more voice of God now, but
Yes.
you sounded fine before.
yes.
Now is the time to answer your questions.
We'll have to go back and redo it. That's okay. Okay, well, hey, for our main topic today, we are going to talk all about Matt Hatch. I'm joking.
Yay!
Yay!
We'll talk a little bit about theories, which theories from the Wheel of Time, which is where you got your start. But I guess, Matt, to kind of start or kick off our main topic here today, I want to talk a little bit about like how did you first get involved in the Wheel of Time? Like, I know pieces of this, but I actually don't know the whole story. So
yeah,
how did you get involved in the Wheel of Time? What was like the thing that prompted you to start Theoryland? And like, just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I ended up getting an internship at a company called iOmega way back in the day. And I was a huge fan of the books and started working for this company and found out that one of the groups that I worked for as an intern, the boss there, was a huge fan of the books too. And honestly, like, because he was a huge fan and we got along, he basically got me my first job working on his team, like a full-time gig with them. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And during that internship, I had, found the Wheel of Time websites online, right? I went back and looked. When I made Theoryland, I made links to like over 100 websites at the time in 1998 that existed for the Wheel of Time. Like,
I bet those sites were really good looking.
they were amazing. Well, when you say that, one of them I wrote like, this is how you would do it. Maybe this is how you should still do it. But I'd be like, hey, will you put a link to my website? Because I have a link to your website and we're all going to link to each other's sites. And one person wrote me back and said, you have way too many images and that takes way too long for people to download. So I will not link people to your website. So I was like, oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know that. So yeah, I at the time I had started looking around the internet for the Wheel of Time. I didn't realize it existed there. And once I did, I was like, oh shoot, Wattfack. I found the the RASR, whatever. It was the Robert Jordan's BB, whatever. It was like some forum. I can't remember what it's called. It has a name. It's like the RSJFR. I can't. Anyways, like I feel like now I should know that this exists. But anyways, it was like one of the biggest initial communities out there that talked about the Wheel of Time. Found them, and I was always obsessed with this whole question of who is who, and what do all these questions mean? What are all the theories? It was a part of me rereading the books over and over again from 1990. And I remember just not feeling like they had already answered those questions. Like this happens at every Wheel of Time community. Once you answer a question 700 times, the next person that asks it, you're like, oh gosh, answered it 700 times. Thanks for being here. It was kind of, they had already answered 1,000 questions, like read the Watt fact, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, maybe this particular community maybe right now isn't for me. And I remember at that time looking for other forums, like Asmodean's, he had a message board. It was like Asmodean's message board or something like that. And I remember talking about theories there, but it was like talk about anything. So I remember saying to myself, like, I just want one place where I can just talk theories and I don't have to deal with any other, I don't want to discuss anything else. And I don't want to be people telling me I can't ask certain questions. I just want to be able to talk about theories. And because I had gotten this job full time, I was like, I had a coworker. My boss had left town my first day. And I asked my coworker, like, what am I supposed to be doing my first day? And he's like, I don't know. Why don't you learn how to make websites? And I was like, okay. And he gave me literally the Websites for Dummies book. He literally gave me that book. And it was like, okay, opened up a text file, started typing in some text. And as soon as I made that, I was like, maybe I could make my own Wheel of Time website. And then I, got a borrowed copy of Photoshop, learned how to make some images. And literally that's where it began. Like the first couple of days my boss was gone, I think I conceived of the idea of like, I'm going to make my own website and it's going to be about theories. And then I spent some time that year. I think I went live with it in early 1998. So I spent time and basically, for like a couple months learning how to do this and launched a website. It actually started on GeoCities. So
man,
it was part of GeoCities in
Remember
Area
GeoCities?
51.
Damn.
Yeah, part of Area 51 in GeoCities. It was actually on GeoCities for probably a year and a half before I got the domain theoryland.com. But I called it Theoryland of the Wheel of Time. It was just a site that sat on GeoCities. And that's how it began, just wanting a singular place that was wholly focused on the Wheel of Time, and happened to have gotten a job around people that were in tech that kind of helped mentor me into the idea that I could make this myself, and literally built it and ran it from my workstation at work.
That's
thank you,
awesome.
Iomega. Thank you.
Good thing now they're looking.
We all owe you a debt of gratitude, Iomega.
Yeah, those were the beginnings of Theoryland. That's where I came from.
How fast did it take off? Did you find like the people were like super into that idea, or was it kind of slow to be adopted, or like how did that?
Yeah, no, great question. I didn't know how to automate this process. So my initial concept was maybe no one will find me. I'll just make this website and no one will see it. So I made it like a yahoo.com, a portal website. I noticed that there wasn't a place to like go and get all the Wheel of Time links. So I spent forever finding every single Wheel of Time link I could find out there, communicating with that admin, sending them emails and seeing if they would. I literally asked if I could, like, they would put a link to my site, right? And that was the whole concept, like try to get everybody to put a link to mine, and I would put a link to theirs, and yay, like the symbiotic relationship between all the websites. And so, you could come to my site for theories and links to other Wheel of Time websites, and it actually did take off relatively fast. Like, it did not take long before I want to say this. This is a made up number because I can't remember way back then, but I want to say, there were like over 100 of us on like an email chain where we would literally reply all. like talking about the Wheel of Time.
I'm
like,
getting anxiety thinking about.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing, and people would send me replies to theories that I posted, and I would go into the HTML and post their reply manually.
Oh my goodness!
And I did that probably for 2 years, and it got ridiculous. But it was, if this makes sense, it wasn't ridiculous. It was cool, right? People were submitting a form because they found my website, which is I was like, oh my gosh, they found the website, and they were replying to something, and like these were like the core geeks of that were just like me, that were like, oh, a place about theory, Wheel of Time theories, and yes, I have opinions and I'm going to share them on a website. You know what I mean? Like that was who exactly I was looking for, and it worked. I still have friends today that showed up in that first year, and they still talk about theories with me today. And
that's amazing.
It was incredible. A huge amount of history happens in those type of communities. And then I finally got my brother-in-law to help me automate the whole process, which was great. And I was like, and actually created a Wheel of Time search engine. He helped me do that, and then a lot of other people helped get me the digital files and chunk the digital files, because that's the important piece, like putting in a large enough chunk of interesting data. And to this day, it's hidden behind, it's hidden on purpose, because such a thing would, you can't sell such a thing or give access to such a thing. But yeah, that's a major tool still in my research that I do even today, is looking across all the books for quotes and such. So yeah, that showed up 2 years in, because with a community like this, you realized immediately no one had their books. Everyone was supposedly at college, and everyone misquoted everything. So I was like, no. Dimondred said this. I know he said this to Semiraj, or whatever. And you're like, no, he didn't. I remember this, and everyone's just basing. No, I think Robert Jordan said this at an interview. And so you just got sick of like, okay, someone needs to know what the real answer is, because this is just madness, And so that led to the naming of quote masters, is what you'd call them. People would just propose stuff, and all of a sudden somebody in theory of them would come along and be like, quote. And be like, you're right or wrong. And so you'd always wait for a quote master to come along and drop a quote on somebody. That led to eventually the interview database that we have on Theoryland that you can go search right now. A lot of this is just all about minutia and caring about facts, and all for the purpose literally of building theories. It didn't hit us till later, or hit me until later, that like this was a really good like historical tool, like to like keep records of these things and have it a searchable place just for fans in the future that might come along. That wasn't in our minds. Our mind was like, how do I prove my point? Like, how do I prove I'm right about this particular theory? I need quotes.
Like all people on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little bit of the.
Well, it's crazy because I used to read Theoryland. I was more. I've said this to you before, Matt. I was more of Whatmania. I think that was the first site I found, right, that I just kind of stuck with them, and so I posted a little on Whatmania. But I would read all of the theory sites in between books. Like it was like I don't know what it is about the Wheel of Time that kind of pushes people into this.
Yeah,
but I mean that the fan community was so active. I mean, I would be updating my browser like all the time to see, did somebody post a response? Did somebody post a new theory? Right?
Oh yeah.
And that was just super exciting at that time. I guess, let me ask you this question. Yeah. What was it like? Because you were one, I think there's maybe 3 websites that are active still, that were active back in the day when Robert Jordan was alive, right?
Tar-Valon, Dragonmount.
Those are the 2 that come to mind.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, there's probably
the
I mean, the encyclopedia site is still
the Wattok fandom.
Yeah. And then there's 3 or 4 that are still there.
What was it like? Like, did you ever hear from Team Jordan? Like, did they look at Theoryland? Like, did Robert Jordan ever make a comment about, hey, I've read your site, or I do? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. I asked that question. I didn't know the answer to that question until after he had passed. But I remember asking that question to, I think it was to Maria, his assistant. I was like, did he? No. So, okay. That's not totally accurate. I knew that somehow they were aware of it, because Theoryland ended up in the, like, one of the title pages for the books. Mm-hmm. I think in the early 2000s. Like, I want to say, I can't remember exactly, but I want to say it's like Crossroads of Twilight. When did Crossroads of Twilight come out?
Crossroads of Twilight was 2001.
Was it 2001?
2002, something like
I
that.
swear in that kind of early 2000s, like I noticed that Theoryland.com was listed along with like 5 or 6 other fan websites, like, and it was on a title page in a book, and that was like the weirdest, coolest fan experience ever. You're like going into a library, if you will, or a Barnes and Noble, opening it and being like, and if you want to know more, you can go to these fan sites, and seeing the site that I created was just like a really. So I knew that someone in his circle, whether or not he was aware of it, knew of it. And then I think it was after he passed that I asked Maria, and that she had said that yes, he knew of Theoryland, and I think he appreciated just all fans talking about the books. He didn't like fan fiction, for
Which
my
is
recollection
so
about it. But
weird to me.
that's my recollection, that he didn't like that.
I've
people
heard
were
that
like-
before.
Yeah.
That he was not a fan of fan fiction. It's sort of like weird thing to have an opinion about. Also weird opinion to have about it. Like, people love your world so much that they want to create stuff inside it, and you're like, don't do that.
Well, and I think it was, and I have to go back and check. Like, I'd have to go back and check the interview database. I think that's where he,
Which exists.
which exists, and you could go back and find out how he or what people recorded him saying about it. But yeah, that's a weird experience. But I do know that he was aware of it from
That's
what
rad.
I've been told. Yeah, it was cool.
That's wild.
That's very cool.
I found Theoryland after I finished The Gathering Storm, because that was the last book that was out when I did my first read. And so that was the point at which I first went online and read theories, because I didn't want to spoil myself. And I first found all the Pot on Fane stuff, and I was obsessed with the Pot on Fane theories on Theoryland. But my favorite was that, I mentioned this, I think, on our last episode. Rand would kill the Dark One, seal Thane outside the Boar, and Thane would become the new Dark One. And I was like so into that stuff. But that I went down rabbit holes. I mean, that was so much fun. I miss not knowing.
Yeah,
So
sure.
fun.
yeah, no, absolutely. It's weird to think how far and how long we've all been kind of doing this. I was trying to look up, I would say, let me see if today I have Google Analytics from like 2000s, maybe. I guess I didn't start tracking analytics on this thing. Huh. I thought it was earlier than that, but maybe it's 2009. But yeah, if I looked at analytics, from the analytics I remember seeing, it definitely was, I want to say 1 to 2 million people have been definitely to Theoryland. So, it's cool to think that there have been that many people that were interested to look it up, so.
That's awesome.
Were there theories that were going around that were favorites of yours that didn't turn out to be true?
Yeah. So, and this is like full spoilers, right? So
Yeah.
I have this old page that I made. We called it the Chronicles, and it was a page for like some of the core users that had been around Theoryland for the first couple of years and their theories. It was like, if you raised up to a hero, or I think we called you an ancient at the time, then you could submit your theories and we post them for you as like in this group of chronicles. The Black Cord is a theory that I had for a long time, that I thought the Black Cords were directly tied to the Dark One's ability to transmigrate souls. And I built theories and I argued theories for years about this until Dragon Con, where Jordan was like, no. And I was like, and I just remember there's a recording of this. And I remember one of the Isabella, I think, is on, and you could hear Isabel and a couple of others go like, "Oh man!" Like there was a certain happiness, a giddiness, and sadness at once. Giddy that now they would stop hearing about my theory that I demanded was true, and sadness because they knew how long, for like 7 years, I had like pushed this theory and sold it to everybody that showed up at the site. And so yeah, the Black Cords I really thought were part of that whole ability to transmigrate things or individuals. I thought that once Rand had cut off Asmodean that way, that Asmodean no longer could be transmigrated. So
Interesting.
one of my other favorite ones that I still don't know is not true was that Lanfear had set up with the Shanchan. That I believe that she was there initially. that Jordan probably changed his mind, but that I think that he led some clues to suggest that she was with them initially. Again, he kind of moved pieces around, in my opinion, right? The time.
Explain that, because I don't think of that one.
Okay, so that one, let me go back.
Because great,
dear listeners, in 1999. So, by the way, it's so funny. I read stuff I wrote, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, the Grom, first of all, right? So Jordan connects Lanfear with the Grom initially, right?
Yeah.
We don't even know about the Grom until later. So I think that was a direct connection to Lanfear and her familiarity with the Grom. Now you could try to tie that in other ways, and maybe that just happened to be. But the idea that the Grom were connected with her, there's a white marble palace in the Shadow Rising that I think Rand sees it through a doorway. The quote is, "A door opened beside her into what seemed like a palace chamber, all carved white marble and white silk hangings." There's a Lanfear shows up in Ravin's chamber, and he looks through the gateway, and he said he had a brief view of a chamber lined with snowy silken hangings. And then there's one from the Dragon Reborn, where Perrin's in the dream world, and he kind of follows her, and he says colorful tapestries hung along the walls between tall golden stands holding dozens of candles that illuminated white flower tiles, and a ceiling painted with fluffy white clouds and fanciful birds in flight. Nothing moved but the flickering candle flames along the length of the hallway. And he describes this, and then he sees Lanfear there. And then later on, you see all of the kind of motifs with the Seanchan having to do with birds and silks and such. So, yeah, I think I thought that at the very least that Lanfear was involved in their plots, but also had kind of set up over there for a time. And that's in the early books, right? Later on, we learn different things. But
I love that. I love that theory because it makes sense that one of the Forsaken would end up with them, because you have Forsaken infiltrating every country and every kingdom in the world, trying to, expand their influence and stuff like that. So it makes sense that somebody would end up over by the Seanchan.
Well, let me give you the two last clues in my theory from 1999. Ooh. One, Lanfear will, quote, make the Shining Towers kneel, right? So the idea, who can make the Shining Towers kneel if it's the Seanchan, right? They're the only ones that would have that capability, right? And that's that connection. And then the connection with High Lady Suroth's instructions from Ashamael saying these two must be removed to the other side of the Aerith Ocean and kept there. And so Ashamael and Lanfear, we know, were planning together. So the idea that Lanfear might be the one to hold them for Ashamael over on the other side of the Aerith Ocean. So yeah, there's my there's my theory.
Interesting.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, so on that topic of theories, because I've got my own couple here. Yeah. What are some theories that you found out weren't true that you wished were? So like they were like, gosh, this would have made so much more sense. I think it would have made a better story, or it just whatever, and then it turned out not to be true, right?
Yeah, I think I mean to this day, this is the obvious one. The obvious one is Taim and Demon Dread, right? Right. So that's the most obvious of the turned out to not be true, but should have been true. Same thing with Asmodean's demise, right? Like that's same part of that, like should have been, made the most logic, turned out not to be true, and that's kind of lame. I think the idea that, was it Narishma that followed Rand with Kalendor?
Yeah.
To me, that one was always like dumb. Like I wanted more, and there were so many theories about like, what does that mean? Like it seems so kind of like he puts the sword here, and he who follows after seems like such an official title, and you're like, this is, and people would paint theories about that. And I don't know that I ever subscribed to like one of them, like this is a great idea, but I always thought that was going to be handled with like, I thought he who follows after was going to be more meaningful. The same thing with Olivia, it wasn't Olivia that's like
help her die.
Yeah, like all those theories, he who follows after, help him die, like those were such big topics because they were later on things that were going to happen eventually. Those theories went on forever, and to me they both like they just died with like they fizzled into a dud. So those are the ones that come to mind when you think of like, what are the ones that where you're like huge theories but just died on the vine. And maybe it's Jordan's brilliance. in making everything seem so important and not making it important. And maybe that's because I guess I hate books where it's like he who follows after, and then it's like a formal title. And of course, there's like he doesn't give you that every time. And so you go in, you follow false leads, and even if he meant to go somewhere and just didn't choose to, it's I think it's pretty brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The one that always got me, and again, I've said this before, but Pot on Fane, I thought they were totally setting up Pot on Fane to be either integral to the sealing of the Bore, like as a way that the Dark One was defeated, or that he would become the new Dark One, or right, like those were things to me that theory, because there were tons of theories surrounding Pot on Fane, like you were talking about, Brian. There were tons of them.
It was so fun,
and they were, and I really like. If I had one piece that I was probably the most disappointed with. And it was really cool to hear Brandon say that he wishes he had done something different there. But I know he was working within the confines of what he had. But that piece to me, I wish Pot on Fane had had more of a part in the ending. And I thought they had set up, like the part of that theory that really got to me was that it goes back to Eye of the World. It sort of foreshadowed how Rand would cleanse the taint on saidin, because you see the taint, or Matt's dagger drew the Forsaken to them at the Eye of the World, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's this sort of pull and push thing that's going on with those two types of evil, right? And it's that very thing that Rand uses later to actually push the taint out of saidin. Like it draws the taint into Shadar Logoth. Right? That's how he does it. And so like I thought there was going to be some type of thing at play there, because Pot on Fane had turned into this essentially dark entity, and it's never really explained what Mordeth was. Right.
Well, sorry, and I
go ahead.
Capitalizing on that conversation. That's part of the conversation, but with Jordan saying that he kind of, if you will, kind of was basically stepped outside of the control of the wheel or the pattern itself. I can't remember the wording he used right now at this moment, but because he said that, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely leading somewhere. So again, that one kind of duds out a little. However, my counter theory to that is that it's just a sly thing that Brandon put in there, that it wasn't Pat and Fane, and we're kind of looking at a red herring, because it's not Pat and Fane, right? It's the evil that infected Mordeth. That's the thing. That's the entity. That's the sentience that has really been driving this whole thing. And sure, it got affected because you had the Dark One mix in there, but it just it morphed, right? I think of it as a virus, and it just morphed and became something. And now I believe it has infected. I think if you go back and read that phrasing of when Matt kind of lifts him up or takes the dagger, whatever it is, it talks about it kind of melting into the ground a bit. And I believe that the evil that infected Mordeth eventually made it to Pat and Fane, that eventually took it to Sheol, where it has infected that land, and in the Fourth Age that it will become part of that story. But it's the red herring is actually the Pat and Fane portion of it. So
that I can get behind, because you know what it always came across to me as is a little bit like the Matrix, like that's Agent Smith.
Oh yeah, sure.
Right, the virus. Mm-hmm. Where it becomes the third baddie that I figured there was something at play where that was going to be a part of the eventual solution. Like spoilers for the Matrix, but that's sort of what happens in the Matrix. So either I always thought Pot on Fane would replace the Dark One, right? Or would be a part of sealing away the Dark One, or like,
at the very least would have an end that wasn't so ignominious.
Yeah,
it was just like, so like, that's the end of him, and it's like, he was such like a huge thing, and then just like nothing.
Yeah.
I actually really liked that the solution was to use the true power. That was essentially the answer we had all been looking for, was you had to use all three. But now this sounds so dumb, but I was sure the reason Perrin needed a power forged hammer was he was going to use it to break the seals, which sounds so stupid now because they're falling apart anyway. But it was like, why else do you have a hammer? And things like Elaine making ter'angreal, I was like, Rand's going to need her to make new seals or something. That was all going to be I thought all those things would tie together, but I especially thought Pot on Fey. But I was willing for any of those things, and I ended up like it was pretty much it just came down to Rand of the Dark One, and I was still okay with it.
Yeah. Well, that one I did. I didn't see the Chandere coming, and I really liked that I didn't see that coming.
Oh yeah.
I didn't see Kalendor coming in that way. I like that I saw that. I did see Varen coming, and so
I
that
think
one
a lot of people did see that one.
Yeah,
but
I didn't. Fuck.
The cool thing about that though was the theory was Purple Aja, and it was pretty much it. Because she wasn't a dark friend; she was like her own Aja, and I liked that was kind of how the community had been talking about it.
Well, and it's funny because people go back and they're like, "Yeah, but you couldn't say." They say to me, "You couldn't say that she was Black Aja," and I said, "Yes." There are 3 spots that were on the forums where I was like, "No, she's working with Forsaken for the purposes of the light, and she's not Black Aja." And I was like, "That doesn't make any sense now that I think about it." Like, of course, they wouldn't just let her like a free agent out there. They would have made her, obviously swear some oaths. But in my head, she was. I knew, I believed from really early that she was working with Lanfear at the time, and then I believed that Jordan created that into Masana. Like I feel like he switched. Basically, Lanfear ends up being kind of this roving agent versus having a base, which does make sense. So the fact that she was roving through the White Tower and roving through Shanshan and others, that does make sense. But I think, Varen, I was always really proud of that I stuck to my guns on that one. Even when I had asked Jordan some questions at DragonCon, Jordan was always going to lie about Varen. Does that make sense? He was always going, if you said, and you go back and read these answers about this, I'm trying to think if anyone asked him and he said no, or just read and find out, but he was never going to tell us things about Varen. He was always going to hide that until the very end, until it was revealed.
Because that was the best freaking reveal.
Yeah.
Like, so good.
Well, but see, I remember the genesis of all of those theories is the line in The Great Hunt where she says Moiraine sent me, right? And that started off 2 branching theories that either Moiraine was a dark friend, right? Or that Varen was, and one of them had to be, right? But then there were also theories that maybe Varen thought that Moiraine sent her, or, right? Yeah. Like there was all these things going on, but like, I always loved the Moiraine was a dark friend theories, and I was waiting for that one to come because that would have been a total flip the script on the Chosen One and the Wise Wizard narrative, to have the Wise Wizard be the bad guy.
Yeah, everyone's a dark friend was definitely a very common like theory. It's like Min's a dark friend. Moraine's a dark friend.
Sora Leah was the big one for me.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's probably been pegged at time to time from being a dark friend, so somebody was going to be right about those. And Jordan actually, if you go read The Great Hunt and the Dragonborn, is very heavy-handed with Varen up front, and then he pulls back a little bit. But it's like she shows up and knows about stuff. She can read what's read or what's written by the dark friends on the wall, whatever, in the dungeon. She leaves with Liandrin, and you know what I mean? Like, she's the third one to leave. Liandrin leaves, and then she leaves. Like, okay, he ties her often to those kind of events. She talks to Barthanes alone, right? Doesn't Rand look over and she's like whispering to Barthanes? And then she says she's used a portal stone before, but not recently or something like that. And then she's been to Tel'aran'rhiod, but doesn't show the notes to Egwene. Although I found a part in Robert Jordan's notes about that, which pulls me back a little bit from the hiding it on purpose, like related to being told she had to, versus hiding it for other reasons, but that were less related to her being a dark friend. But then the slip of white that we see, Lanfear showing up in Tel'aran'rhiod the first time Egwene uses the ring. There's all these connection points that in the first like books 2 and 3 where you're like, wow. And I feel like he must have started getting questions like in letters, like, because I know he did. I think it was 1994. He got a letter from fans that were like, and people want to know, is Varen the whatever? I think it was pretty early in the 90s. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but and it does feel like he pulled back from those kind of more kind of heavy-handed
He's like,
connections.
Oh shit! I am making this too
Yeah.
obvious.
Just like
Well, the
Taim
one
and
that he
Demon
made,
did.
yeah, the Taim and Demon Dread one, he made that way too obvious.
Yeah.
To the point that it was like, okay, this is a given, and then he had to change his mind.
Yeah.
Because it was just too obvious.
It's
But-
too obvious. Yeah.
I first of all, I love the discussion, man. I wish we had more time. Maybe we'll have to
Yeah.
do this again and talk more theories because it's been a lot of fun with that. I want to respect your time a little bit and kind of wrap up here. But before we do that, we have some obsessions, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now remind me the obsession game.
Well, no, not even a game, man. Matt would just.
I know.
What are you currently obsessed with?
And these have to be not Wheel of Time related. Is that correct?
Yeah, not.
I mean, they can be Wheel of Time related,
Yeah.
but we
I
like
mean-
to switch it up.
I mean, my family would say I'm obsessed with the Dusty Wheel. I'm obsessed with the Wheel of Time TV show, and eventually someday, doing live streams during the show and during after show. So I'm obsessed and have been with this concept of an after show for the TV show for the last 2 years, basically since the Jordan Con that I left, where I think Nablus, you haven't ever been, right?
Nope. It's been my
Okay.
first time.
Yeah, I think it was Daniel Green that was there also, and that's where I think I met Jess the first time was 2 years ago at Jordan Con. And I remember leaving from there and Taylor and I talking about this and as something we wanted to do. So the fact that we're here 2 years later, I'm still obsessed with it, right? I want to see it. I want to see it actually occur, this after show. So something else I'm obsessed with, I know this sounds strange, listening to podcasts while I do yard work. I'm not a fan of yard work, but as soon as I think to myself, I haven't had any time to listen to podcasts, all of a sudden I'll spend 4 hours outside, like cutting the yard, trimming. I don't care what it is, because I want to extend that time that I give myself. It's like this sacred podcast time where I get to listen to things that I normally would not sit down and just listen to. That's when I'll listen to Tarvalon After Dark. That's when I'll listen to Talk Iran Riyadh. And honestly, like I'll listen to 2 or 3 and then I'm like, I don't have time for everybody else I try to catch up an episode here or there. But yeah, podcast while doing yard work is this latest thing. I don't know. It just happened.
That's the way you do it, man.
No, that doesn't sound weird at all. I totally get that.
Okay, this one's gonna be weird. Peloton. My wife got a Peloton bike a long time ago. She's like, you really should ride this bike. We used to do spinning classes together, and then it was like, well, it's at home. That'll be easier. And
That's not usually how it works in my experience.
I know. Well, for me, it is like I always talk to people. I've run almost a marathon on a treadmill. Now I say almost.
Nice.
19 miles. I don't know how close people would say that's almost, but I did a 19-mile run. And people are like, that's crazy. I would never do that. I'm like, I have easy access to a bathroom. It's cold. I have water, anything I want to drink, and I have a TV that I can watch shows and catch up on.
Yeah.
So to me, like at home treadmill or whatever, Peloton is great. But my latest obsession is like Peloton and like 2 trainers there. Like Cody Rigsby is like one of the trainers, and there's one called Jess King. And for some reason, only those 2 people. Like my brain's like, I will ride this bike and do exercise if one of those 2 people is talking to me or yelling at me. But that's so it's like, and it's like the one thing is like, it's kind of like the podcast thing. Like I don't know what it is, but or like it's watching TV while I'm on a treadmill. If I can find the right kind of voice, or story, whatever it is, I can do the thing that I'm not really excited about. So I think the Peloton or the doing yard work, it's just, I don't want to do certain things, and I find things that will enable me to get over that. Like, I don't want to do this crap. So if I can find the right voice and the right story, I figure I can do just about anything.
Yeah, we just got a fancy treadmill, and one of the things that has motivated me to get on it is it connects to iFit, and it has all of these like guided walking tours. So I have done a whole bunch of tours of different places in ancient Egypt while I've been on the treadmill, and it's been extremely cool. I did some ones on Easter Island, also extremely cool. So it was like an actual archaeologist was walking us through these places and telling us all this really interesting information.
That is
and
good.
so like, yeah, if there's something that's actually engaging you while you're doing it, it makes it so much easier.
Yep. My last obsession is Texas Hold'em. It's always been an obsession. Always remains an obsession. I don't know. It'll be like at 12:30 in the morning, I'm trying to fall asleep, and I'll jump on like an app and play some Texas Hold'em until my eyes shut. I have no idea why. And there's always the joy. I don't know. There's some weird dopamine hit. I don't know. Every time I get 2 cards and I get to flip them over, there's something exciting about that particular moment.
Mhm.
And you see like a 3 and an 8 offsuit, and you're like, no. But 2 seconds later, you're like, but I'm going to get another 2 cards here in about 30 seconds. And I can't.
And it's going to be
wait.
so good.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah,
I
so
had
yeah.
no idea that you were a Hold'em player. I play
I
a
love
lot of
Texas Hold'em.
In fact,
love
I
it.
used to host before COVID. I used to host usually either twice a month or sometimes monthly. We'd do poker tournaments at my old office building before I closed my business. Daniel used to come, actually. So
Oh, yeah?
Daniel used to come over to play poker. I had no idea. There used to be a poker tournament at
Yeah.
not anymore though, right?
No, it's not there this year. So it is every year. I've won it like twice
Well,
in the last many years. It's fun. It's just I love. There's nothing. I could sit down for 3 or 4 or 5 hours and just play Texas Hold'em.
Yes, me too.
I need people to have stakes in the game a bit. That's what I don't like about the apps themselves, because people play differently than they would when there are stakes. And even if the stake is so funny, I've played like a $1 game, and it's so funny just how the people's brains will like turn and they'll actually begin playing as they would if there were stakes in the game. As long as there's I only like the tournament aspect. I don't like poker cash game type of stuff, but I like Texas Hold'em tournaments are just fun. I love them.
Tournaments are the only way to play, in my opinion. So, but anyways, yeah. Thanks for being on, Matt. That was a lot of fun. You
Yeah,
actually
it's
had a
great.
good episode for once.
Whatever.
And it's all because of you.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. I'm always fascinated to hear your Theoryland stuff. I actually I knew about Dusty Wheel before I knew you were connected with that. So I'm always like, oh, so much, you have so much backstory I'm fascinated by.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I've only read the series all the way through once, and so there are a lot of things I don't remember and a lot of things that I don't know. And so having really knowledgeable people like the 3 of you sitting down and just like talking, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
now I'm learning. This is great.
I'm only knowledgeable about my theories. People say stuff and I'm like, that happened.
It's like, okay, if
I
you
don't
say
remember.
so.
Is it related to Lanfear, Varen, Teleron Riyadh, or Mirror Worlds? No. Okay. I don't know.
All right. Bye.
Exactly. Well, thank you for having me. No, it's great.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing here. It's
you.
It's hilarious just to listen in and hear your the humor bits are awesome.
Well,
We have a lot of fun with it.
we do.
It's fun.
We do. Well, Jess, you want to take us out?
I will do that. Thank you all for joining us here on Tar Valon After Dark. We hope that you had as much fun as we did, and we hope that you love Matt Hatch as much as we do. Probably not. It's not possible to love him as much as we do, but you can try. As always, episodes drop every week on Monday. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter at TarValonDark. And remember, if you want to support the podcast, check us out on our Patreon, patreon.com/TarValonAfterDark. Thank you for joining us here at The Thirsty Tinker. And until next time, keep it wheel.
See ya.
And we're out.